Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming to the Week 2 class meeting for Module 155. Um, as always, I appreciate your time and y'all spending it with me. Let's see, important announcements for this week. Tuesday, we do not have class. Mardi Gras. Woo woo. So that's awesome sauce. So no coursework for Tuesday, just 4 days next week. Stay safe out there. If y'all go to the parades and do the Mardi Gras thing, just make good choices, all that. A little bit about your chapter 24 exam. Y'all rocked it. Y'all rocked it. I mean, I think in one section, the first day, I graded like 7 exams, and the lowest grade was a 100% A. So get it, girls. Y'all are killing it. Doing really, really good. Even y'all new ones that are trying to guess or doing the best you can with those ICD-10 codes, y'all are getting close. Y'all are doing really good with that too. And we are actually going to talk a little bit about ICD-10 today while we're in. So that'll be fun. We're going to dip into that for the first time for some of you new ones. Let's see. This week we're covering chapter 25. Your test, I believe, is going to be on Monday. Yeah, test is Monday. We're off Tuesday for Mardi Gras. And then we're back. I think we start chapter 26. But pathology and laboratory is what we're on this week, chapter 25. And we're going to talk a little bit about that and then do some practical review. Got a little slideshow. That's not right. Stop that. Started on the wrong page. Okay. Can everybody see it? All right. So chapter 25, your pathology and laboratory chapter starts on page 575 in your CPT manual. And, like I told y'all, we're going chapter by chapter, basically section by section through the CPT manual. And this one starts on 575. The code range for this one is 80047 through 89398. And then there's also, guys, the last few pages of that section is some zero codes, which are proprietary laboratory tests. And those are basically really tests that are owned by a specific company or manufacturer or something like that. Like we're talking DNA sequencing and things like that, like crazy, complicated, big testing done by major labs and facilities and stuff like that. Okay. So those are in there at the very back of that section. But those codes are not used often. And they also cannot be coded by themselves if y'all ever run across them. So just bear that in mind. All right, so one of the first things I wanted to talk about with you guys that's mentioned in chapter 25 is what is a panel? Can any of y'all tell me what a panel is? No. All right, so a panel is a group of tests commonly ordered by a physician to diagnose or screen for a certain condition, for a particular condition. They'll do, when I say commonly ordered, it's because it's common practice that anytime patients they are suspected that they have a certain condition, they have already come up with a number of tests that they run to see if the patient has or does not have said condition. And that could, any number of blood tests, urinalysis, hemoglobin, vitamin levels, thyroid, all these different tests can make up a panel. Okay. And like for diabetes, as an example. They are more than likely going to test your thyroid, your iron levels, your vitamin levels. Like every time I go to the doctor, they run the same panel of tests for me. They check my vitamin levels, my thyroid, my iron. They draw blood to check, make sure my kidneys are functioning right. They do a the urinalysis is to make sure my kidneys are functioning right. But and then they run my A1C. So that's a whole panel of tests that they have come up with in advance that they know they need to check for me every 3 months. So that's what that is. It's a group of tests used to either diagnose or screen for a certain condition. And also, guys, you want to make note, it mentions this in the chapter, but it's very important. When you are coding panels, you may code multiple panels at the same time. However, make sure that those panels do not contain the same tests. Okay, the panel is made up of a group of tests, and different panels may have the same tests in there. You don't want to duplicate. Okay, so you just have to be careful when you're coding multiple panels. All right, so what is a therapeutic drug assay? It's a test that lets the physician monitor the level of a specific drug in a patient's system. Okay, so there's several different ways these can be used. And basically, there are certain tests that detect a specific drug. And a doctor, the test will not only tell the doctor what drug it is if they don't know, but it will tell them how much of that drug is in the patient's system. So if they've got a patient who, and I think they use this a lot with like opioids and things like that, pain medicines, anything that you can get addicted to, they use these for, to make sure that number one, the patient is using it as directed, as far as dosage, quantity, all that kind of stuff, and to make sure they're not abusing the drug. Make sure they're getting the right levels. There's all kind of different reasons they do this. Okay. I used to go to a doctor that tested me because of the anxiety medicine that I was on. So he would test me to make sure that I was only taking what I was prescribed. Because the drug that I was on was one that was highly known to travel on the streets. So he would, there were strict limitations around that drug and how much they could prescribe and who they could prescribe it to. And you had to sign a waiver saying that you promised you would not get it filled at any other pharmacy and stuff like that. So opioid abuse in this country is a huge problem. Everybody knows that. And some of the therapeutic drug assays are used for those reasons. They also do it with elderly patients too, to make sure that they're taking their meds like they're supposed to. It's a good way for a doctor to monitor a patient, but it's important to know what those are. And those are the two main points that I wanted to make sure y'all had a clear understanding of for chapter 25. So I want to move on to some practical review. And this was from exercise 25-3, which was from your lab assignment from yesterday. So hopefully y'all have already done this. Y'all have got those answers handy. If not, well, when you're here, you get a 1-up because, well, now you're going to have the answers to 3 out of the 6 questions that you were supposed to turn in. So, all right. So the first one we're going to go over was number 2 in the list. Let me get back to that page. And that was a urinalysis microscopic only. All right, so where do y'all think we're going to start in the CPT for that? Dang book. I would go straight for urinalysis.
Urinalysis?
Exactly. Go straight for urinalysis. And I haven't looked, but more than likely it indents down. And I'm sure there's a microscopic only option. And you would go directly there. Can anybody give me the code that they came up with for that?
81015.
81015. Yes, ma'am. Very good. That is correct. Pretty straightforward, right? Not overly complicated. We're about to get overly complicated. All right, so number 5 and number 6, I'm sure y'all noticed while y'all were going through them yesterday that they asked for ICD-10 codes. For some of my new ones, y'all have caught on so quickly to the CPT. We're just gonna go ahead and jump into it. So if y'all have your ICD-10 manuals handy, grab them. Get them out. Let's do the thing. I'm gonna walk through these with y'all. So let's talk about the CPT code for number 5 first. Gases, blood pH only, in a patient with respiratory failure. Okay, so remember the difference in CPT and ICD-10. CPT is your procedures. ICD-10 is your conditions or diseases or illnesses, injuries, whatever the case may be. Whatever your patient's being seen for, basically. All right, so we're going to look at CPT first. So we're going to look at procedure first. We're in pathology and laboratory, so I'm guessing it's going to be a test. So that's going to be gases, blood pH only. That's what we're going to look at for our procedure. Any of y'all have your answers handy as to what you got for that one?
8 to 800.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Very, very good. 82800 is your CPT code for that one, guys. Did anybody have any trouble with the pathology laboratory section as far as CPT? They kept it pretty simple, and it's pretty straightforward. All right, so let's look at the ICD-10 code for this. All right, let me switch books. And y'all, I don't know if y'all have noticed, but the ICD-10 code book is even bigger than the CPT manual and heavier. And there went my CPT manual. Okay.
I don't have my book. I'm at work, so.
That's okay. But this is this book. It is massive. Massively huge. Okay, so the big main difference between CPT and ICD-10 is that the alphabetic index is in the front instead of the back. I kind of wish CPT did it that way. Oh, Angel got a patat. Hey, patat. We love babies. So the biggest difference between ICD-10 and CPT is that as far as the process, is that the alphabetic index is in the front instead of the back. So you're going to start in the front of the book. And it's a huge gray section in the front. So we figured out our procedure. Now we're going to look at the rest of it. In a patient with respiratory failure. So our condition is going to be, or our illness is going to be respiratory failure, right? So that's what we're going to look for in our alphabetic index in your ICD-10 manual. And it might take me a minute to get acclimated because I don't think I've looked at an ICD-10 book in like 2 or 3 months. It's been nice. All right, so I'm looking in the alphabetic index and I'm looking for respiratory failure. So I go straight to respiratory because that's just what I think. Respiration. No, no, that says failure. Painful, sign, distress. All right, but it says respiratory. See also condition, distress syndrome, type 2. All right, so it says see condition. So what do y'all think we're gonna do? Where do y'all think we're gonna go next?
Go to failure.
That's correct. We're gonna go look at failure. All right, so failure, and there's like a page and a half in the failure section. And they're in alphabetical order. And y'all can see these indent down the same way that the others did. Although I will say the ICD-10 makes it easier because they put lines on the indentions. So under failure, let's see, it's alphabetized. We're looking for respiratory. So we're gonna follow that first indentation down, and you're gonna follow it through all the columns so you get to what you need. All right, so failure, heart.
It's on page 252.
252. Respiration, and it is in that first column. Respiration or respiratory. J96.90. And then it indents down and gives a whole bunch of other stuff.
Do you always have to put the O after the point?
Huh?
You always have to put the O,
Yeah.
like if you said point, okay.
Yes, if it has an O, you put the O. Yeah, don't leave nothing off. All right, so J96.90, and then it gives a whole bunch of widths and acute, center, chronic, all that kind of stuff. So that's where I would go. I would start with J96.90. So let's go there. All right, and guys, just like in the CPT manual, the ICD-10 codes go in, alphanumeric order. They start with the alphabet. It starts A at the beginning of the book all the way through Z, okay? So J is gonna be somewhere in the middle. And for those of you that have not yet, you're gonna do the same thing with your ICD-10 manual that you did with your CPT as far as the tabbies. I don't think y'all can see mine, but this book is so big. Oh my God. But tabbies, right? Same thing, it's full of them. There's like 2 rows of tabbies for all the different sections. But so we're gonna go to J, and actually, yes, J. All right, so for those of y'all that are following along, look at page 957 in your ICD-10 manual. All right, so with ICD-10 codes, it's a little bit more complicated than CPT. And the reason why, who all is looking in their book right now? Who all can see exactly what I'm talking about?
I can.
Okay, so Jackie, anybody else following along in the book? Angel, you are too? Okay, cool deal. All right, so what I want y'all to do is look on page 957 in the first column, the left-hand column, about halfway down. it says other diseases of the respiratory system, J96 through J99. Okay? That's the subsection. All right? And then you go J96 is the start. And you see a little red stop sign there. All of the little symbols, you'll see that some of them are highlighted. Some of them have a stop sign. Some of them have dots. Some of them have plus signs. There's all kind of little symbols that are around these codes and in the descriptions and things like that. And you have to look down at the bottom of the page to see what a lot of that stuff means. There's a legend down at the bottom of the page in ICD-10 that tells you what all of those little symbols and signs mean. And you have to read those. You have to pay attention to those, because that little stop sign on J96 automatically tells me that I cannot code that, just like it is. Red stop sign, stop, don't code this. Okay? It's going to have to indent down. All right, so under J96, you see you've got J96.0, and then J96.1, and J96.2. And all of those have red stop signs. So if you find that one of those fits your scenario, you still can't use that code. You still have to indent down because of that stop sign. So look under J96.1 or J96.0, either which, and you'll see that it goes another character, J96.00 or 0.01 or 0.02, right? Or that next one, J96.1, it's J96.10, 0.11, or 0.12, depending on which one fits your scenario. So there's more, I think there's more reading to ICD-10. It's not as cut and dry as CPT. It's a little bit more involved, a little bit more follow it down. And then the other thing, you see how your subsection starts with, it's one alpha character and two numbers. A lot of them are up to 7 characters. It is very rare that you get one that is just the 3 numbers and you can rock with it like that. There's going to be more that has to be specified before you can use that code. So let's look. We're looking for respiratory failure, and we have no other information. That's all we're given. We have no specifics on the type or kind or with or without anything else. It's just straight up respiratory failure. So I'm looking at these codes, and I'm not going to start with J96 because that's the main subsection, right? I'm going to start with looking at like J96.0, acute respiratory failure. 96.1 is chronic respiratory failure. 96.2, acute and chronic. And then it goes in the next column, it continues on, J96.9, respiratory failure, unspecified. So that's probably going to be the one we need, right? And we can stop there because J98 goes on to other respiratory diseases. So ours is going to be in that little section, and J96.9 is going to be where we need to go, okay? Because it's unspecified. We don't know much about it. So, but you have that red stop sign there. So you can't use J96.9. You got to indent down. You got to get more characters. So let's read under there. J96.90, respiratory failure, unspecified whether with hypoxia or hypercapnia. And then J96.91 is respiratory failure unspecified with hypoxia. J96.92 is respiratory failure unspecified with hypercapnia. So which one are we going to use?
J96.90.
Exactly. We're going to use J96.90 because that's the one that fits our scenario. Unspecified whether with either one of those diseases. Either one of those are not mentioned here, so they do not apply to us. We do not code what we do not know. All right, and there's no other signs or symbols or anything around that make me think we need to add on more characters or that we couldn't use that code or anything like that. So your answer is going to be J96.90. And guys, always, the alphabet part of it is always capitalized, and it always must be there. If it's not there, it's not an ICD-10 code. All right, any zeros or O's or whatever you want to call them, you have to put them. Let me see if I can find. I'll see if I could find one that send it out to the 7 characters. I'm not seeing one in here or close to here. That's okay. But okay, so, but do y'all recognize how the process is really, really similar? You got your keyword, find it in the alphabetic index, and then find it in the tabular index. And just like with CPT, you always, always, always go to that tabular. Do not stop at the alphabetic index. You'll get the stuff wrong. And plus, because a lot of the time from the alphabetic index, it's going to lead you to a main subsection of some kind. Okay. I mean, there are times where it'll lead you directly to the right code, but there's so many, like I said, those signs, you got to know whether there are those signs and symbols. And the only way you can see those is by going to that tabular section. So any questions thus far? No? Okay. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Our last one we're going to look at, which was number 6 in the chapter exercise. Sodium urine in a patient with congestive heart failure. So another type of failure. All right, but let's look at the CPT first. Sodium urine. That's the test. And I'm not going to try to move this big old book again. So y'all just let me know what y'all got for that one.
I have 84300.
That is correct. That is exactly correct. Very, very good. Like I said, CPT is a lot more cut and dry. All right, so let's talk about the ICD-10 code for this one. All right, so very, very similar to number 5, patient with congestive heart failure instead of respiratory failure. You could go to heart or you could go to failure. Given what happened with the respiratory failure, I'd probably go ahead and go to failure first and just see where we end up. So I'm going to do that with y'all just because I'm trying to refresh myself on ICD-10 too. Go back to failure. And there's some, y'all, some codes, some things you look up in the alphabetic index, and there's going to be pages of columns for that particular, like injury is one of them. Failure apparently is one of them. But look for injury. There's pages of injuries. And also, I like the ICD-10 codes better than the procedure codes because the ICD-10 codes actually get interesting. Because you'll start coding how the people got in the accident, whether they were driving or not. There's a code for somebody that got run over by a horse and buggy. There's a code for somebody who got run over by a cow. I mean, it gets really funny, actually. All right. So I find the ICD-10, while it's a little more complicated, it's a lot more interesting to me. Failure. All right, so in the first indentation down under failure, I see heart. And then it indents down again under heart, and I'd be willing to bet there's a congestive somewhere under there. And it's about halfway down the page, congestive. And then it indents down some too with some other conditions, but I would just go to that main subsection, I50.9. So that's going to be a little bit before where that J code was. All right, so I50 points. Okay. All right, so verse I50.9. Get to that. And that is heart failure, unspecified. And then underneath it, it says cardiac, heart, or myocardial failure, not otherwise. NOS, when you see NOS, that's not otherwise specified. Congestive heart disease, congestive heart failure, not otherwise specified. And there's an excludes note, fluid overload unrelated to congestive heart failure, and it gives you the code. So what that tells us, if that I509 code does not include fluid overload unrelated to congestive heart failure, that E code. So you're probably not going to be using those together. All right, but there's no stop sign. I don't see anything else that fits our stuff better. And here's the deal, okay? If you go back, if you look on the page before where I50 is, that's the beginning of the subsection there. That has the stop sign. But the I50.9 doesn't. We can use that code. And it doesn't indent down any. There's no other specifications. We can just go with it like it is. So the I50.9 is going to be our code. But you can look back, and it's not a bad idea to always do this too. If it leads you to, a code at the bottom of the subsection, go ahead and glance through and make sure that that's the code that best fits your scenario. It might not always be. You might have got just a little bit off in your alphabetic index some kind of way. So just double check that. Look back and make sure that there's nothing that, just look in the whole section. Just glance over the whole thing and make sure that nothing fits better. Let's see. And also, just like with the CPT codes, guys, sometimes when you look at the beginning of a subsection, there'll be one of those little legend key boxes that'll give you some information that has to be added onto that code. Okay, so you want to pay attention to that stuff, make sure you're not missing that. That's why I say go back and just glance over the whole little section that you're working in. Any questions about that, y'all? And that's just a quick intro to ICD-10. We didn't have coding workshop last night because nobody came. I went and nobody showed up, so I didn't do it. I'm not going to sit there and talk to nobody.
I didn't get a thing for it. I was waiting
You
for
didn't
it.
get a thing?
Mm-mm.
You didn't get a link?
Nope.
I thought I had posted the link earlier yesterday.
The only link was the one for the the NCT prep or whatever, and that was it. There wasn't one for the coding workshop. I was waiting.
Really?
Yeah.
No way. That's nuts. Okay. All right. Well, y'all will get one for sure next week. I'm sorry about that. I could have sworn I posted that thing. Tell you what I'll do. I'll start putting it in news and announcements too, just so it's in another place. We have it in another place. But we're gonna start working on ICD-10 this. Well, actually, there won't be one this coming week because we're not having school Tuesday, and I'm gonna be Mardi Gras it up. So no coding workshop this coming Tuesday. We will pick it back up the week after, and we'll start in ICD-10. So those of y'all who have not yet, go ahead and start working on tabbing your ICD-10 manuals in the meantime over the next week or so. And we'll hit that because y'all have caught on to CPT so fast and so well. I just think there's no reason we can't just jump into it. Y'all are chomping at the bit to want to do it, so we're going to do it. All right. Well, if y'all don't have anything else, oh wait, we have people pop in. Let me make sure I get everybody written down. This manual is huge. And I am still working on getting a document camera, one that I can set right over my book so I can point to things and show y'all stuff. I am still working on that. Those are kind of expensive. Really expensive. All right. Courtney. All right, very good. Well, y'all have a happy Mardi Gras. Your chapter 25 exam is going to run very similar to your chapter 24, a little bit of multiple choice and then some coding practice. So, and y'all have got this. Y'all got this. So I'm always here if you need me, text me, whatever. Okay. All right. Y'all have a happy Mardi Gras weekend. Be safe. Make good choices.
Happy Mardi Gras.
Happy Mardi Gras, y'all.